I don't feel alone. We just settled in and it already feels like home.
You're listening to the Feels Like Home podcast with Mike Throne and Marty Ford.
Guys, we have a great treat for you today. One of my favorite people in all of Chillicothe is Dave Huggins. He is the race director at the Buck 50, which is a 150-mile relay race through our county. And it is all to support keeping teens drug-free. And Dave is a guy with a fascinating story. He's got a fascinating backstory, but then he's also got a fascinating story of how he did everything. So want to make sure that you guys listen up and enjoy Dave Huggins. So I'm excited to have Dave with us today because as we record this, we are narrowing the days to the 2021 Buck 50. And I was actually on Dave and Chris's podcast, which is Run Off at the Mouth, the Buck 50 podcast. So go find that on your favorite podcast platform and give it a listen. You can skip over mine if you'd like. It's fine. Because you probably already have listened to me enough.
Have you caught the part where we say that everyone is the most interesting man in Chillicothe?
So I did hear that in the Justin Wood one today.
Yeah.
And then I heard Chris say, because it wasn't you, that Justin Wood is definitely the most interesting man. And I take offense.
It's really kind of a neat thing that, well, Chris just talks. He
Right.
is the ultimate mouth runner, and he knows it.
Well, you might be able to get a word in edgewise with him not being here this time.
For sure. We've learned to, this podcast game is pretty popular these days, and it's a neat format to get information out and really just kind of have a good time. But you got to learn to not talk over people, and that can be a challenge for Chris and I sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, I get that. But Dave is race director at the Buck 50, which is a 150-mile relay race through Ross County, the amazing hills, the somewhat flat surfaces, because I don't know that there are any super flat surfaces.
There's a few.
But actually, it's an exciting thing this year because it's actually coming to downtown for the start and finish line. So we wanted to get Dave in here in advance of the 2021 Buck 50 to talk because Dave, like me, so far we've had one guest that we've actually recorded with, and he's a native Chillicothean. Marty's a native Chillicothean. So now I'm going to put Marty at a disadvantage. We're going to have two transplants and one native person.
That's all good.
So we can kind of, put him at a little bit of a spot. So tell me a little bit about where you're from and then how you got to Chillicothe, because I think that's kind of an interesting story.
So I'm a preacher's kid, so I was all over the place. I was born in Stanton, Virginia. My father was a Nazarene preacher. Lived there till the age of 3. And then we moved to Butler, Pennsylvania, where my dad was the district secretary for the Church of the Nazarene on the Pittsburgh district. So I had like the best childhood ever. I grew up on a campground, had 60 acres. Nice. We had horses in the summer. I had my own basketball court, baseball fields, shooting range, putt-putt golf.
Yeah, you can't beat that.
But I worked my tail off. Like I would cut grass literally Monday through Saturday as a kid. I remember my wife telling her that I was riding lawnmower when I was 8 years old.
Yeah.
She's like, "There's no way." I'm like,
Well,
"Yeah,
yeah, 'cause
because
you
we
would
had
never
work
do
to
that
do, and I was big enough to do it." Right. And then my dad moved from Butler to the west side of Columbus in 1986. We lived there for 2 years, and in 1988, I moved to Chillicothe and was a sophomore at Chillicothe High School.
Okay.
And pretty much been a Chillicothe guy ever since.
So you actually technically count. So that blows my whole theory because you at least graduated from high school here.
I did graduate.
Yeah, because I came in when I was 29 years old. So,
But here was the thing, like through all those moving experiences that I had, I knew that for me, when I was going to raise a family, I didn't want to move my kids around like I did.
Right.
I mean, I moved into Columbus as an 8th grader. That was not an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
Then I moved to Chillicothe as a sophomore. Now, that was easy. I mean, nice Southern Ohio hospitality. But I don't know. It's neat to see the friends that I knew who had grown up together in schools, and I really kind of wanted that for my friends or my kids. So staying in Chillicothe was kind of a goal of mine that I wanted to do.
Yeah, and before I forget, I mean, Dave is really one half of the team, the duo, with he and Chris Scott, who really kind of formulated and kind of were the catalyst for the Buck 50. Chris is on vacation, so we just went without him. And so I actually, and I think I said this earlier, but maybe Dave will get a word in edgewise. So
I'll definitely get all the facts straight.
Yes, funny. There you go. So you start out with the Buck 50 from a really cool place because, and I've told this story to you, and I've told the story before, but I feel like a sea change happened in Chillicothe. Would have been 6-7 years ago, where we got tired of whining about our own problems or complaining about our own problems and looking to others to solve them for us, and just decided we've had enough of this. We'll just do it on our own.
Absolutely.
And figure it out. And so you kind of came to that realization, and that's how the Buck 50 kind of formulated too. So tell us that story, because I think it's a really interesting story. You really didn't feel connected to the opioid epidemic until some things happened, right?
Right. I didn't have any addiction in my family. Didn't really know much about the opioid epidemic until I started to learn from Rotary through, people like Judge Ader, who talked to us about the drug court. We had that story about the missing women going around in 2015. That kind of started to make me think a little bit differently. And then it was Wayne Campbell who came to our Rotary Club and kind of gave this play-by-play of his son, who was a football player, had a shoulder injury, got prescribed a bunch of Percocets, became addicted. And he was talking about how his son took these Percocets to stay on the field. And I was a football guy, and I'm sitting there doing the math, and that wasn't around when I played, but I can appreciate the effort and work that you put into football and the team camaraderie, and you would do whatever it takes to be on that field. I can totally understand that. And I could look at Wayne and say, you look like a pretty good father, and yet this still happened to your family. And so it was, to me, like a reckoning of, this is really problematic. I've got kids that I don't want this to happen to. And then he told us about Drug-Free Clubs of America and how we could do this prevention model to protect these kids. And that was just like a lightning bolt. And it was like, well, that makes all the sense in the world. Like, I'm not a recovery expert. Don't ever think I could live in that world. I mean, I appreciate what they do, but that's not my bailiwick. Mm-hmm. But I felt like, Chris really got passionate about it and wanted to start this program, and then we needed a way to pay for the program. And I'll say I either was blessed with the idea or I made the mistake, depending on how you want to look at it, that I'll help pay for it. I'll figure a way to pay for it. But I was actually talking to William Preston today, our Buck 50 board president, and we were kind of talking about year 5's coming up, and that's such a big deal as an organization to have survived for 5 years. Yeah. And I told him about how we thought we needed to raise $50,000. And not that that's a small amount of money, but I thought that was feasible. And then our bill the first year was $113,000. And I was kind of trying to, it's hindsight gives you some advantage, but then you can't go back and make decisions. And I was trying to talk to William, like, if we would have known when we started that the first year was going to cost $113,000, would I have had the guts to still go for it?
Right.
But that ignorance is bliss is a wonderful tool.
Yep. Yeah. Kind of like doing a podcast. Like, Marty really wants to do it, and then next thing you know, you're spending every Wednesday night at his house. So, I think that's really interesting because I think your story is not uncommon. I think we in this community, a lot of people were blessed to not have it inhabit their house or infect their house. And then all of a sudden it was kind of everybody's problem. And 12 years ago or 15 years ago, we might have said, hey, Washington, hey, Columbus, come and give us the money to do this program. And instead, we looked at it like, all right, if we're going to do it, it's got to start with us and be a local thing. And I think what you've done is you transformed helping kids into a year-long event that happens to have a fundraiser that's, and I mean, I know you do Little Buck and a few other things, but the big amount of the money comes from obviously Buck 50, and it has turned into a marquee event of a year-long effort. And that is, to me, an amazing thing.
How did you land on the race? Like when you were looking at like fundraising
ideas?
Yeah.
So I had ran in the first time I ever ran in a race was in 2012. I ran in a 200-mile, 12-person race down in Kentucky with the Tomlinsons. And that was my first running experience.
Okay.
And I loved this concept. I thought, this is really cool. Like, I could get into the team thing. I liked the challenge of running at night and being up. Like, that was cool. And so in 2014, I actually designed a 110-mile course around Ross County that I thought might be a Rotary fundraiser. And when I started to look at it, I just thought, this is a tremendous amount of work. And I don't have the time to just do this for fun or whatever. But, when Chris really got behind this idea and he wanted to start these clubs, that's when I kind of went back to that idea. Because I also knew, like, even at $50,000, I knew, well, you can't raise $50,000 putting on a 5K. You can't raise $50,000 and do a golf outing. Right. You can't, there's all these different fundraisers that we're familiar with, but if we're going to raise a bunch of money, we got to put on a big time event.
Right.
So that's when I started thinking about we could do something pretty unique that's not common. There's only probably 50 or 60 of these races across the country. I now know why there's only 50 or 60 of these races across the country, but you start thinking about, okay, we can sell runner entry fees and we can sell sponsorships. And instead of just holding our hand out to support these kids, we can kind of bring this all together. But even with that, I just had no clue what any of that meant or was or is.
It's a brilliant idea. My take on it is the church that I go to has a checkpoint.
Yeah.
And I can see the excitement that they have putting that together every year since it started. It's amazing.
Yeah.
My first recollection of how big this was once again back to the Tomlinsons. In 2016, so we'd been working on this thing for about 6 or 8 months. And we were going to run a half marathon down in Lexington, and we were talking about the Buck 50, and I had just recently spoke to this race director of this other 200-mile relay race, and I was excited about that. And Meredith says, well, what does that guy do for a living? And I was like, well, I don't know. I think he just does the race, I guess. And then it kind of like I didn't show any emotion but it like kind of hit me. I'm like, man, that's all he does? This might be bigger than just putting on like First Thursdays with Rotary that we do all summer. So and at this point now, like Mike says, we work all year long. Yeah. I really didn't understand how much work I did in the summertime for the race until we had to postpone last year into July. So all the things that I would normally be getting ready in June, July, August, like
for the next April,
yeah. I didn't get to do any of that. So I've literally felt so far behind on everything I've done for this April that thankfully it's year 5 and I've got some experience in a tremendous amount of volunteers.
Yeah.
It's we could almost call this the I've got your back event.
Yeah.
Because it's like the runners have the backs of the kids and the volunteers have the backs of both of those people.
Right.
And the effort that people put into this still blows my mind.
Yeah.
I mean, it just like you were saying, Mike, it's the people of this area. It's like they just needed a way to give or participate or help. And race weekend, it's like the most beautiful thing ever to just cruise around and see all the people that are involved.
And when I ran it, which was about 3 years ago, it was exhausting. Don't get me wrong. But the thing that I really relished out of all of it was, it's 4 a.m., let's say, and you're driving to a checkpoint, and it's sort of quiet, and somebody starts snickering over nothing, and then next thing you know, everybody in the van is belly laughing, and 20 minutes later, it's quiet again, and you can't quite figure out why you were laughing, but that's just kind of the thing that, united you at the moment, right? Like, and then, or somebody says, I think like I did, like, why am I up and then getting ready to run? It makes no sense whatsoever. And at the time I was pushing 50. So I was like, why am I doing this?
I'm
makes
telling
no
you,
sense.
those hours between 2 and probably 5:30, 6 o'clock are rough.
Yeah.
Like that's everyone, even if you're not a night owl, you can buy into the excitement and make it till midnight or 2 and feel pretty good about it.
Yep. But
it's not normal to be up at 3 or 4, 5:30 in the morning.
Especially if you've been up, for, hours before.
Your adrenaline's pumping, you're burning energy just from that, let alone the runs. But I remember the first year I ran into Kylie Johnson at checkpoint 15. It was 3:30 in the morning, and she was dying. She was so tired. And I gave her a piece of gum. I'm like, here, Kylie, just have a piece of gum. And she said that like brought her back to life or whatever. But
it's whatever fits at the moment. Right?
It's
It
whatever
really
you
is.
need at the moment.
I remember when I did it that first year, we all went back to Meredith and Andy's house because I was on Tomlinson's team. And we went back to their house, and all these people took showers. And I was just like, man, I am exhausted. So I literally fell asleep with my foam roller as a pillow and slept on the floor. And everybody else got a shower and did everything they needed to do. And then I went out and ran my next leg, which was the leg that you go up and down through side of trails.
Tar Hollow, you're on 18. It's my favorite.
Yeah. And I mean, I was definitely cursing your name on that long hill right at the end. And I remember thinking to myself, like, you know what's really motivating me right now? There was two things. We had come out of checkpoint 17.
Yep. Which is First Wesleyan.
It's First Wesleyan, and they had
Top
breakfast
of the hill.
sandwiches there, and somebody said, I'll get you a sandwich. And then all I could think about was that sandwich followed by a shower.
Yeah.
So I could get ready to run the last leg, and that was it. Now, I don't know if that's anybody else's experience that's ever run this thing, but that was mine.
I think it's pretty typical
and
as
it's
a
really
runner.
Whatever
You got to focus
latch on to, right?
Short little increments at a time.
Yeah. But, I mean, it was a blast. It was just my body. I had gotten injured during training, so I didn't train for a little while, and that really hurt me, But, I've always told people, like, I'm not going to say never, but never, like it just was such a grueling event. But, I also think about it in terms of these 5-person teams, and these people are animals. I mean, they just,
that's crazy.
They're out there, and, we saw a couple of them when we ran, and, they come to the last checkpoint and they're like, yeah, I got one more to go. Now one more to go, and, like,
And they've already done 5.
And they've done 5. So like, you're like, oh.
Those people run about 30, 35 miles.
Yeah, that's
and
insanity.
Like you said, a lot of elevation, but that was part of our design when we built the course is we felt like if we would build a really challenging course that would be difficult, that would be something that people would latch on to.
Yep.
Nobody brags about the flattest 5K they ever ran and how easy that was, but people talk about running in the middle of the night over a bunch of hills to get a breakfast sandwich.
Yeah.
So
That's right.
Yeah, it's funny when I talk to people that have qualified for Boston and they tell me which race that they qualified from. There's about a handful of races that I always go, oh yeah, that's a pretty flat course, you know? So
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, that's usually, you know, a lot of people get their qualifying times at some of those courses, and hey, whatever, you're still going to run Boston.
We had someone run, actually, so the Boston Marathon, it's in April as well.
Right.
And it's typically the Monday after the Buck 50.
right.
So I think it was, I don't know if it's 2018 or 2019. I was actually in Columbus buying a pair of running shoes, and I had a jacket on. The guy's like, have you ran the Buck 50? And I always feel really awkward when that comes up.
Right.
I don't like titles. I don't like credit. So then I don't get to run it. I run the event. I'm the race director, you know, and the guy was like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. He goes, we had all kinds of people from our store running that race. He said, we had this one girl who ran in your race, then got on a plane Sunday morning, flew to Boston, and ran the Boston Marathon on Monday. And she said the Boston Marathon was much easier on the hill standpoint than what she ran in Chillicothe, Ohio.
Wow.
That's crazy.
There's something to hang your hat on.
Man.
So that's not very, and
Yeah.
even when we're out promoting the race at different race expos,
Yeah.
so many times people be like, oh, this is great. When is it? And we'll tell them, oh, that's Boston. I got to run Boston.
Can't do it, yeah.
And I get that. That is a big,
Yeah.
you know.
And for a lot of runners, that is like the pinnacle, right? It's like
Sure,
making the World Series, a Super Bowl. Like when you've run Boston, then you've really
You're talking about a pretty elite runner who, because it is a race you have to qualify for. It is a pretty serious time that you have to run a marathon in. I mean,
Yeah.
running a marathon's no joke, period.
right.
I don't care how flat or whatever. I mean, you're asking a lot of your body to run 26 miles in a row.
Yeah. One of the things that I never really knew until I got into a room with you guys and heard the discussions. And this actually happened last year when you guys decided to ignore my advice, thankfully, and go ahead with the race, even though I was trying to say, don't do it in April. And I was worried that July would be too much of a physical toll on the runners. You guys were smart. You did it and did it right. But the thing that blows me away, every year there is challenges for this thing. And one of the things that really was interesting to me was you actually kind of have to go out and get some right of way to run or at least sign agreements with people that have land to do this stuff. And that's kind of fascinating to me because people are giving you permission to run a race through their whatever their terrain or whatever.
Yeah, some of it's private property,
Yeah.
some of it's state owned. Actually, the private property is a lot easier to
gonna
get
say.
done.
Sure.
But I tell my wife this many times. I'll tell a lot of people, like, I'm just thankful that when we decided to actually do this race, it was for a cause as important as teenage drug prevention, because you get a lot of leniency.
Yeah.
Like,
Opens a lot of doors for you, I'm sure.
there's no way I can't even imagine how hard it would have been to try to, if we were just going to do this for profit,
Right.
or I don't even know what
Well, and you're very specific. So like if you
Yes.
did it for Rotary, it would just be to support Rotary programs, which is it's a little
Right.
harder to get your hands around.
That's right.
Yeah.
So
But yeah, that, like, we get each year, we have 29 different checkpoints plus whatever the start finish line is. So, we have a pretty simple form that we want people to sign off on so they know and we know and when we're going to be there, and we're as respectful as we possibly can. If there's anything we mess up, we go back and fix it.
right.
But it is a crazy amount of work to track down, 30 different people just to sign a simple piece of paper.
Right.
And then, like last year, we had that all ready to go in April, and then now we got to redo it in July.
Mm-hmm.
But, once again, it's that pride thing. I mean, I even think of, checkpoint. I mean, and then the rural part of where we're at in Ross County, there's some of these places that if they actually told us no, we'd be in huge trouble.
Right.
I mean, like, my friend Chuck out there at Walnut Creek Campground,
Yeah.
he tells me, no, I can't bring two teams into that location. I don't know where we go from there.
Right.
Checkpoint number 9, David Orr, that owns Orr Farms at those grain mills.
Yeah.
There's nothing else out there, and it's perfect. And, I just talked to Dave a few days ago. We actually store some light plants there and use that as a staging point. But he's so kind. He's just like,
Yeah.
I'll open the gates. I'll
He's
do
a
whatever
great guy.
you need. If there's anything else that we can do better for you, please let me know. I'll be glad to help out.
Yeah.
But as hard as all these pieces are, those people make our lives a whole lot easier.
Yeah. And really, I think that the team that you have, not only just the people that are around you and surround you as the tight board and the group of volunteers, but then the volunteers of the volunteers, you know, it takes a special person to sit at a checkpoint for hours and call off numbers when somebody comes in, make sure that, you know, everybody's okay. You know, it takes a special group to have live music and do breakfast sandwiches and have everything that they have at 17. I mean, it's amazing to see, but I think it's a little bit of a tribute to Ross County, isn't it?
I think it definitely is. I was really, you know, the first year we did this, it was super crazy concept. Like, it's not common. No one really knew. And I've always said one of the hardest things we have in trying to sell this race, even to other runners, is that until you do it, until you're on a team, there's no way for me to really describe to you what this experience is.
Right.
And I hate that.
Yep.
It's just the event is that powerful. The experience is that powerful that it doesn't make sense until you physically go through it. So, you know, we had several meetings early on to meet with our volunteers, and we pieced it out, you know, different civic groups, churches, and businesses were going to man these checkpoints and help, you know, drivers park and help runners get in and out and record times. And I remember threatening these people in the first year. And we'd worked for a year and a half, and it's like, that one chance to make a first impression, that's where we were. And I really just said, guys, you have to be nice to these people.
Right.
Like, be courteous, be kind. How you treat them will represent all the work we've done for the last year and a half. I said, if you're kind and courteous, we'll be set.
Right.
But I said, if you're not, we're done.
Yeah.
We're 1 year and done. And I didn't even know that's all I said. I didn't even know about any of these plans or any of these things. And I remember the first year, a good friend of mine, you know, runners are out there, and he's calling me. He's like, Dave, you can't believe this. There's kids running out, handing out waters. There's signs everywhere all the way through Yaples. Like, there's people everywhere cheering these runners on. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Like, it was just like amazing to see the response that the community had.
Yeah.
There was even a sign, and I have it on my phone. I took in the middle of the night. Somebody wrote it with a Sharpie on a piece of cardboard. It wasn't even a nice piece of cardboard. It was like a back of a pizza box or something. And they nailed it to a telephone pole. And it just said, runners, thanks for coming to our community and supporting our kids.
Yeah.
And I cried when I read it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just like,
Yeah. It's amazing.
like someone had the fortitude to just be that kind
Yeah.
and thank these people. And then, like, once the first year was done, the runners were hooked.
Yeah.
They were just like,
Yep.
we can't believe it was this organized. We can't believe how nice everyone was. And then I don't want to say we've been set because we've still had challenges, but
Yeah.
you do good the first time, you got a chance to get to year 2, 3, 4, and now 5.
And when you don't have to worry about the volunteers and what they'll do,
Right.
that makes it easier to manage when you can't run through a specific part of your course because the state has shut it down.
Yeah.
It makes it better when you have to change a checkpoint or you have to reconfigure. You know, I don't want to say it's not easy.
They
but
don't
at the
bat
same
an
time,
eye,
you
though.
can-
It's
you
like
can
it's
go,
almost
you
like
know?
it's just like whatever we got to do.
Right.
Everyone has that whatever we got to do attitude. And in an event as crazy as this is, to be successful, that's what you have to have. And it's like I still think one of my favorite things is I know a lot about the race and I hear a ton of stories, but I love it when I hear something I had no clue about.
Right.
And it's either one of our route managers or a volunteer handled a situation, whatever it was. And I didn't have to. And I don't need to be involved in everything. Like, it's like you give people responsibility, go let them do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to spend a little time talking about the reason why you do it. Because the MAID Drug-Free Club in Ross County had an impact on my kids. Because I have a senior this year, and then I have one that's already graduated. And my favorite thing about everything that you do happens on a Friday in November, and that is the rally that you do in the courthouse. And I get emotional talking about it because, I remember when all the missing women stuff happened. And, I was in the middle of all that as an editor of the newspaper and things like that. I remember just hearing all bad things about my town. And
let's talk about that for a second.
Okay.
Because we were talking about how, back in 2015,
Sure.
all those times, there was a lot of people who all of a sudden had that kind of fed up moment. Yeah. And wanted to get involved and do something. But like my group with Rotary and Chris, we didn't know anything about the, heroin partnership project or things going on in that world. They didn't really know anything about us. But it's kind of interesting to think back, like really what was it that forced us all to just get involved and do it? Because that's really what it was.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was, I can speak for myself, but then I can kind of give you a hypothesis, and I think it's the same. And that is, I got sick and tired of covering death all the time. And just talking about it like it was a statistic.
Yeah.
When you start talking to people and they start telling you, like the Wayne Campbell story that you said earlier, think about that 100 times over in Ross County, and I probably talked personally to 20% of those people. But their stories are so amazing and they're so heartbreaking that you get sick of saying, well, okay, we had this many this month and this many. Like, you still got to track it to hold everybody accountable. But at some point in time, you just say, well, you're not going to find a solution that's just going to make it stop.
Yeah.
But how do we minimize it to a point where it's something that we can manage, or at least that we can look at and say, we have a plan, and I think that's what we got sick of, is not having a plan. Like, oh, another guy overdosed today. And, or, hey, this girl was 22 years old and she died of a heroin overdose today. Like, I just got sick of that. And I think that's what a lot of people felt.
Well, there's two theories in life that I love, and I kind of live by these things. First of all, the man who doesn't make any mistakes doesn't make anything at all.
Right.
It doesn't even really matter what you've done wrong. Just do something, even if it's wrong. Like, that's better than sitting on your butt and doing nothing.
Right.
And then the other thing is, there's people out there who watch things happen, and there's people who make things happen, and then there's people who wondered what the heck happened.
Right.
And I think us in Ross County, we were going to make something happen, and we didn't even really know what we were doing.
Yeah.
But we were going to put forth the effort.
Mm-hmm.
And, I've really kind of come back to that effort and work philosophy because, time is the most important commodity that we all have. Every day, everyone's given 24 hours, and it's your choice to do with that what you're going to do. We need money in most cases to do whatever it is those projects or ideas are, whether that's around the house, in your business, or in your community. Mm-hmm. But nothing happens unless people get together, I'm going to say talk a little bit, and then work a lot.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you can talk yourself to death and never do anything. Yep. Meetings, to me, are just a place to communicate some information and then go out and do some more work.
Yep.
Not just sit around and talk about, well, we could do this, or we could do that, or we could create this document or that policy. No, just go do some things. Even mess some things up.
Yeah.
And then just go fix it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's why you're finding, to hear your stories about the things that happen on the race that surprise you, when somebody says this happened and I think you have a community that was ready to buy in, right? They saw the impact that you potentially had for their students,
Yeah.
and people truly care. In the percentage of the population that is, that are the addicted, that are really struggling, is pretty small, and you have a large part of the population who don't find themselves there but don't really know what to do.
Yeah.
And so I think the race gave them some direction that they were searching for and struggling to find. And I think that's the beauty of it. I think about the first, Mike, 17 was the first Wesleyan, and I was playing music that first year, and this girl comes running into the stage, and she is bawling. And we're like, what is going on? Are you okay? And she's like, I'm scared of the dark, and I ran up that hill in the dark. And so we're like, that's not going to happen next year.
Yeah.
So next year, there were luminaries all the way up that hill.
Yeah.
And that was something that happened. I witnessed it happen. I saw Gwen say something about it, like, that's not going to happen next year when we do this again.
Yeah.
It's going to be lit some way.
Did you go out there now? We have the light plants and that thing's all lit up. I mean, I'm begging my wife to go out there.
Yeah.
Like, usually Rachel goes to sleep about midnight or 1, and she'll sleep till about 5 or 6. And I just, like, I can't thank the people at First Wesleyan Church for what they do. It's 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Like, back to that time of the day that everyone, your body says I should be asleep.
Mm-hmm.
And they light that thing up. It's its own event.
Yeah.
Like, there was a guy, I was on a group of runners. Many teams will put together a Facebook group, and it's not uncommon for them to add me to that group to help answer questions.
Yeah.
And there was a guy who was from Virginia who came and ran the race a few years ago. And after the race, they're talking, are we going to get a team in next year again, yada, yada, yada. And this guy's like, I'm running in that race again just to eat that breakfast sandwich at Checkpoint 17.
And the really funny thing about that is that's one of Marty and I's really good friends.
Yeah.
He used to work with him at Horizon. And
My buddy Eli.
I mean, he's the guy that he cooks from the time he gets there until the time he's done.
Yep.
And I mean that I think the interesting thing about what Marty said is I think that we will support prevention much more than we will support punishment. I think that's me.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's just hard
'Cause
to
it's
know what
easier
to
to
do
get
in that world.
Yeah.
I mean,
But this one for me, prevention is not. We weren't sticking our money into more law enforcement solutions and court solutions. We were trying to address it from the other end. How do we give kids the ability to look at what's happening in their school, and if they see drugs and they're confronted with the issue of drugs, they have a support system to say no. And I think all the other plans that ever really try to do that just said, just do it, guys. It'll be better. And it's just so hard to do. And this gives you some incentive. It gives you a support system around you of people that are like-minded like you. Every school has its own club, and then they are all part of the bigger club. And I mean, that's a really cool thing. And I think one of the great things about it is when you go to that November event, the kids from Huntington are right next to the kids from Paint Valley, and they battle each other in every sporting contest.
I still think
the
one of
Adina
my,
and Unioto kids, the same deal, right?
Yep.
But they're all there,
It's, the one thing that I've learned that's been kind of heartbreaking is how many kids in really every community are faced with a lack of parenting, or drugs are just a part of their life because that's how their family has grown up.
Right.
And I didn't realize how detrimental that was to so many kids. And so for those kids specifically, they're now able to talk about a problem that they've been ashamed of before, because now they're starting to learn that multiple kids and multiple families have this same issue.
Yeah.
So they now feel accepted. Yeah. They don't feel that they're an outcast or that they've even done anything wrong. They now understand that they're part of a group.
Yeah.
And that has been probably one of the most rewarding things for me is, all the work that we do is to know that those kids now feel like they got a chance.
And the group of the kids, it's run by kids. It's not run by you or Chris or anybody else.
Right.
It's a board, that they've empowered themselves to empower themselves, right?
Yeah, we asked them what they want. What do you want to do, and try to fulfill those things.
Yeah.
I never would have dreamed that we would have had the buy-in that we did, but I've talked to some of these kids, and it is the fact that they can be in a club and go to Adina, and the kids at Huntington are in that same club, and the kids at Zane Trace are in that same club.
Yeah.
You talk about the rally, and one of the things I even laugh about is, it's always a Friday, and it was a few years back, and I think it was Adina was playing Paint Valley that night, and I think they're both undefeated.
Right.
It's a big game, and it's like the Paint Valley kids are up there, and they're doing their little chant and cheer, and there's the Adina kids, and you're going down tonight, and it's like, but that's all in good fun, it's bringing those kids together, and it has driven other schools in the Southern Ohio area to start drug-free clubs programs.
Yeah.
I think it was 2019. We had, I think, 17 schools come to Ross County, and there were about 3,000 kids in that rally that day and got fed and had a good time. And, to me, that's us starting to turn the tide a little bit.
Yep.
We got a long way to go, but...
And you're never going to be able to say it's not going to happen. It's never going to happen. Certainly things happen, and some kids may. But, you talk about the rally. The first year that I went, which I think was the first year you did it, and I saw a kid that I thought I knew get up there and tell a story that I had no clue about.
Yes.
And I was like,
I
that
am
kid's
floored at the
been
stories
impacted.
they'll tell
Yeah.
on that courthouse step
Yeah.
in front of 2,000 people.
And the thing that's amazing is it washed over me like a tidal wave. It was a tsunami of emotion to think, I know that kid, I thought I knew his story, but I didn't know anything about that kid.
We
And
have
that's
a cool
powerful.
thing. We have a really cool thing happening in this year's race. And at the first rally, there was an ambassador, Kayla Daniels Hauserman, who got up on that courthouse steps and spoke.
Yeah, I remember that.
Blew us all away. And she's running in the race this year.
Nice.
Yeah.
And
She's actually running 18 and 28.
I thought she's a 7.
Maybe she is. I don't remember. I think
She's running on my favorite team name, the Frankfurt Assassins. Chad Mitten is their team captain.
nice.
That's great.
But yeah, she ended up running on that team, and I saw her registration come through. And I don't know her very well at all. I know who she is. But actually, just this week, it's been on my to-do list for probably 6 weeks. I just want to reach out to her and thank her for being in the race.
Yeah, that's great.
And so, this week I took some time and I wrote an email to her, and I just said, I am so excited to see you in this race and kind of have this full circle experience of, being an ambassador in the club, and now you're going to run in the race that supports the club. And it's just like that's the part that perpetually keeps these kids thinking in the right direction.
Yeah.
They're still a part of us. They're an alumni, but they're not getting drug tested like the other kids, but they still believe in what we're doing. And to me, that's the evidence of the whole program working.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's got an opportunity to pay it forward, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And the to kind of close the loop on all this, your interest in helping teens be drug free and helping start a race actually ended up becoming a career for you because you joined Drug Free Clubs of America and work for them now.
I did. And
You
I
did?
never,
Okay.
none of that was ever, not even close to being a thought. Like
Right.
I said, it was when Meredith kind of said something about this other guy working full time on them. I'm like, what? No. But I 100% know and believe that God brought me to this place to lead this initiative.
Right.
I have a super diverse background. I used to work for Hearst Potato Chips. So when I worked there, I learned all kinds of things about selling. And then I worked in the construction business, and I built water and wastewater treatment plants, like multi-million-dollar projects. And I learned about scheduling and budgets, and mistakes that you make might be $10,000 or $20,000 mistakes if you're not planned out and organized. And if you don't order the steel or the whatever it is materials that don't get here for 6 or 8 months, you mess up the whole project. Like all those long-term planning things that I now use in the race, I was learning there. And then, I was a Scully Mitchell consultant, started my own business. And so I learned about QuickBooks and, working with the state and opening up your own business and all those kind of things. So I did all those things. But I remember, early on working in probably 2016, it was definitely before the first race. And I remember in my basement, and I was working one night, and I was working on the race itself. And over here was some billings that I needed to do to bring some money into my family. And I knew I needed to do this. This is probably 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, and I'm still working. And I heard this voice say, just leave that over there. Keep working on what you're doing. And it was like as real to me as anything I'd ever heard. And I was like, well, that's awful weird. But I knew what it was. But sometimes when we hear that, we don't really want to acknowledge it.
Right.
And so I just kind of kept doing it. Cause I was working for free, but I kind of didn't really care, but everyone still has bills to pay. But then, it was, trying to work a full-time job and then trying to run this race, which I was working like 20 hours a week. Like I've worked 20 hours a week on this race since January of 2016 and never stopped. Like
Right.
I've always done something.
Yep.
And finally it was, Angie Ferguson from Drug Free Clubs called me up one day in about March of, I think it was March 7th, 2018, and just said, hey, I have a job for you. And I'm like,
We just
what?
want to need more jobs.
And so we kind of worked out this deal. And then I went to the $150 board and asked for a salary from there because I wasn't going to make enough at Drug Free Clubs to pay all my bills. But I always say I make a whopping $20,000 a year to run the $150, but it, helps pay some bills, and I'm thankful for that. And, it's like I said, it was never an initiative to become rich or to make profit. It's just, become a necessity. But I'm super thankful for those opportunities and super thankful for what the community does to support a race like this. Because if they don't, you couldn't do this.
Yeah. No, 100%. And I just respect you and Chris and the group that puts this thing together every year. The ones that, you go out and recruit the checkpoint folks, and you go out and recruit the other volunteers, the safety and security people that you have to have. And you guys do it every year. And I'm just so thankful for it for our community. I'm so thankful for, hearing the stories of kids who have been able to turn their lives around because they came from an upbringing where they saw the impacts of drugs and addiction in their community and in their own house. And they're starting to break those cycles because, they heard a message and they bought into the message and they saw the end result. And
yeah, we're definitely winning. I mean,
yeah.
It's a long-term battle still, but we're winning a lot of little battles along the way.
Yeah.
We even got some data recently that I really feel like is exciting as we've been doing this for 5 years now, and the kids do these surveys every year when they join. And the things they say in those surveys are just amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, first of all, this is one thing I never would have guessed. I'll even ask you guys because I like guessing. So we test every kid to get into the club. They all take an initial test. And then we test 25% of the total for the rest of the year. So when you think about, Ross County having almost 2,000 kids in the program, that's 500 random drug tests throughout the rest of the year. So what percentage of kids do you think pass those tests?
pass the test.
Pass the test.
Yep. I like to think positively.
Yeah. I'm going to say 85.
Yeah, I was going to land around the 80, 83, 84, 85.
So when I first thought about it, I would have thought like 70% would have been good. 85 is obviously more than 70. But those kids are passing 99.5% of those random tests.
Yeah.
So,
amazing.
I mean, do we have kids in the program who take the initial test and then go down the wrong road? I'm sure that happens.
Right.
I'm not here to say that every kid is 100% perfect.
Yep.
But what I do know is the 99.5% of them are doing a really good job and really going down the right path. So that's crazy exciting to me.
Yep.
The other part we start to see in these surveys is that now that one of the questions that we ask them is how often are they offered drugs or alcohol? And we're starting to see a decrease in the number of kids who say, yes, they're offered that over time. So that number is declining as well. So once again, drugs and alcohol are still out there, but it's not as prevalent in our high schools as it once was. And that to me is super amazing and really makes you feel good that all these efforts, it's starting to make a difference.
Yeah.
It's definitely starting to make a difference.
Well, thanks for everything that you're doing, because I think, again, I think years ago we needed to find something, and you and Chris and that group have absolutely found something that is a lot of fun for the runners, but also I think one that I think there's, talking with the runners that come through at the checkpoints that I've been at and things like that, they get it. They know what they're there for. And I think that's really cool. A lot of people run a race and they don't really know if they're doing it for anything. They know what they're doing. And I think that's really cool. And it's probably the reason why we see people come back every year, right?
I think it's the synergy for sure. It means something to put in all these miles and go through that pain and suffering of, running all these hills. When you think about doing it for kids and you think about the future, and one thing we've had kind of come to us that I didn't anticipate this at all, and Marty, you talked about this a little bit earlier, was for those people who have battled addiction and gotten through it on the other side, there can still be some shame or some pain or just some, they feel like they're not as, some people do, but like with us talking about this, like we're doing so much in the community, they're rallying around that now. And now they're celebrating that. Like we've had so many of those people running this race as a way to give back and pay it forward. And, I went through that and I don't want these kids to go through that. So I want to be a part of this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Chris stopped by my office. It's been probably about a year ago. No, it was before the pandemic. And he's sitting across from my desk, and I notice he gets distracted. He's looking across to behind me, and he gets this like glint in his eye. I could tell something was up, and he's like, "That was a good day." And I turned around and looked, and it was my Chillicothe telephone book with a picture from the rally.
Yes.
And so I haven't gotten rid of that. It's like 4 years old now, but it's still on my desk. But that day, I could see what it meant to him.
Yeah.
And we had never really sat down and had a long conversation about it, but I could tell, man, when he saw that picture on the book, he was like, "Yeah, that was a good day."
That was a super cool moment for us, because once again, when you're from Chillicothe, phone book's still a big deal. Like we still use phone book around here a little bit, folks.
It's a local company too,
Yeah.
so
And I remember when they reached out to us and asked us if they could photograph the rally, and that was the plan for the cover. I mean, usually there's a contest, so people submit things and you don't really know what's going to be on there. But they had seen how impactful this program was, and so like we were going to be on the phone book. That was like a super cool moment for us to have that, for sure.
We all walked down to it from the office there at the time, and it was amazing to see.
The rally is the thing that, and Sandy Murray, 100% the credit goes to her. I would have never thought of a rally. That was the furthest thing from my mind. We had no kids when she brought it up. Like we have 0 kids in the club. We should have a rally. Sandy, we don't have any kids yet. But we should have
who are we going to rally?
I didn't even say that. I just said, whoa. okay, we could do a rally, but no one would ever dream there to be 1,500 kids marching down that street. And I mean, I'll invite anyone, anytime, anywhere, any place, and I will challenge you to walk in the middle of those kids and not cry, because the electric in those kids is unbelievable.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
I usually will walk in there for a little bit, and then I gotta like step out to the side. Like I can't, even a guy like me who has a lot of energy and loves it, like there's just so much, like I feel like I'm about to explode. Like I'll be Spinal Tap drummer and boom, I'm gone.
It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing.
Well, Dave, thanks, man. This was a great hour or so to talk. Buck 50 is having a great impact on our community. We're thankful for you. Dave Huggins, race director of the Buck 50. Give the details, so if people are listening, they want to go to the website or they want to email you, give all that detail so they can do it.
So we're pretty simple. You can find us at thebuck50.com, all spelled out. If you ever have any questions, concerns, comments, you can email me at dave@thebuck50.com. Race day is 6 days and I don't know how many hours left. I'm going to use them all to get ready. But we will be downtown at the Majestic Theater at 45 East 2nd Street. First teams take off at 2 p.m. The last teams take off at 8 p.m. And then they'll be out all over Ross County. You can go to the website, find all the maps, and then teams will be coming back to finish at the Majestic maybe as early as 10 a.m. The majority of the teams you'll finish between 2 and 6 p.m. And then we have an award ceremony at 6:30 p.m. that evening.
And come see me at Checkpoint 23 at the fire tower at Side of Trails State Forest, because I'll be there with the Rotary Checkpoint. And it's a great time. Dave, thanks for being with us. It's been a great
No problem.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
We don't deserve it. No, we don't deserve it. It feels so
You've been listening
real.
to the Feels Like Home podcast with Mike Throne and Marty Ford.
We just settled in and it already feels like home. Feels like home. Feels like home.